John Edward Downes was born March 30, 1940.
The only son of Ted Downes and Alice Gunn. As Dad is prone to say, he is quite literally the son of a gun.
Lucky son.
The lucky son of a lucky son of a gun.
John Downes was sent down the mines when he was 8 years old. His small hands an asset in getting those hard-to-reach lumps of coal. He was something of a prodigy in his hometown of Corby. His legendary status immortalised in song. I'm sure we all remember Northamptonshire's #1 hit of spring 1948 from Petey and the Bogs. Here comes Johnny, look at his lump of coal. Now we do have a recording of that song. The audio quality isn't great, so you're going to have to keep quiet and try to listen closely as we play it. Are we ready? There he is.
Here comes little Johnny, a lump of coal is in his tiny hand. Here comes little Johnny, a lump of coal is in his hand. It's rather large, this lump of coal, his hands are so very small. By Jove! 3 cheers for Johnny and his lump of coal, and his lump of coal, and his lump of coal.
And to Jake, who was the vocalist on that, playing the part of Petey in the Box. Unfortunately, his nose grew quickly, and by the age of 12, he is forced into early retirement, unable to squeeze his large facial appendage down those tight mine shafts.
He almost found fame again on the knobbly knee circuit. After winning the regionals, he had a shot at the national titles. Alas, he was disqualified when judges discovered he'd been injecting his knees with a saline solution to illegally enhance their knobbliness. With few options left in England, Dad paid his £10 and boarded a boat to Australia. This is actually a shot from a knobbly knee contest, and there's Dad getting his knees judged for their knobbliness. I kid you not, that is actually true.
He landed in Sydney and tried his hand at a number of different jobs up the East Coast. He worked for the Water Board, where he learned to hypnotise a chicken. He was a sales rep until he discovered he couldn't sell. He worked at a corned beef canning plant for 1 day, and then onto a building site where he assisted an alcoholic. Back in Sydney, he became a postman and then a delivery van driver for a laundromat. And it was at this time that he moved in next door to a young woman called Kate Godden.
Dad went over to borrow a cup of sugar, and as was the fashion of the time, they courted over tea and bully beef for 9 days before getting married.
In need of friends, Dad joined the local Apex club and volunteered to MC a function. Someone told him he had a good voice, and before you could say, testing, 1, 2, 3, Dad landed a job on regional radio for 4WK in Warwick, Queensland. He was a rural correspondent, which according to Dad was a pretty good gig for someone who couldn't find the arse end of a cow unless it had horns.
While Dad's knowledge of all things rural was limited, his large nose gifted his baritone voice a cavernous amplification, a mellifluous pitch that few others could match. And he was soon on the fast track to regional radio stardom before hitting the big time, midnight to dawns at 4GG on the Gold Coast.
Whilst all this was happening, Mum single-handedly raised us kids. They had 3 of their own and 1 adopted child, although Dad could never remember which one. Dad started recording voiceovers at 4GG to make some extra cash. For while the fame of doing Midnight Dawns on Gold Coast's 4th biggest radio station was gratifying, it was hard to cover the costs at home. Dad and his nose were tearing through up to 20 hankies a day. Sarah's Finnegan habit was causing stress to Mum's budget. And Jake's bedwetting didn't help matters. And this was a time before plastic mattress protectors. So Mum used to have to wash the sheets out every morning with an expensive formula of lavender, lead and asbestos. Dad's talents as a voiceover were soon spotted, and an invitation to join Australia's #1 and only voice agency, RMK, was offered.
Hey.
Dad went to Sydney to meet with the owner of RMK, Ron Scott, and in a story he's told maybe once or twice. Dad agreed to try his luck with RMK, but only if Ron could increase his salary by more than the 10% commission that Ron was going to charge. Ron looked at the salary Dad was earning on the overnight shift at 4GG and decided if he could find Dad just one job in the next 12 months, he'd be increasing his salary by 25%. So he said yes, and the rest is voiceover history. Dad's voice became synonymous with brands such as NRMA or HELP.
Demtel, but that's not all.
Westpac, we're with you. Wait, one more. Westpac, we're with you.
And I think his most famous and seminal work that I'm sure we've all experienced and probably love as much as we do. Hi, you've called John and Jenny, and at times, the wires had lied.
Dad went on to buy the agency from Ron Scott, and once his children started working there, his salary continued to increase by 25% annually to this day.
How to run an agency was just one of the many things that Dad didn't teach us.
Very rude, very rude.
Dad liked to think of himself as a handyman, and when Dad wasn't doing voices, which was a lot of the time, he would tinker away in his workshop fixing things that worked perfectly fine until he got his toolbox out.
There wasn't much that Dad couldn't not fix. If the dishwasher filter needed emptying, Dad would get his toolbox out, and with a couple of deft taps of his hammer, he'd have that thing fully dismantled and leaking on the kitchen floor. After a few more hours and a whole lot of cursing, the stupid bloody thing, he'd get it back together, dirty filter basket and all. There would of course be some parts left over, but that dishwasher would rattle and not clean dishes like never before.
Nothing was within his abilities to repair. And Dad would have a go at not fixing anything. Lawnmower not starting? I got this. Gears on your bike making a funny sound? Let me have a look at it. Pipes in the house banging whenever you have a shower? I think I know what the problem is. Fishing reel won't wind properly, give it here. VHS eating tapes? Let me get my tools.
I remember I got a remote control car for Christmas one year and it used to veer ever so slightly to the left. I made the mistake of mentioning this to Dad one morning. Dad got his tools out and fixed the problem insofar as it never veered to the left anymore, but only because the stupid bloody thing wouldn't work.
Those of you who know Dad will, I'm sure, be aware that Dad likes to be ahead of the curve when it comes to fashion.
Thank you.
No, not a budgie anyway. Already.
Oh, hold on. It's coming.
There it is.
What you might not know is that Dad also suffers from a condition called the cold shoulder. And so out of practicality, Dad was the very first to pioneer the sweater over the shoulder look. It alleviated the symptoms of his condition, even in the hot, dry desert. But it was soon trending, and that was before trending was even a thing. Then everyone was doing it.
I ask you, who made pastels cool before Crockett and Tubbs were wearing them in Miami Vice? Our dad.
And who was doing short shorts before Warwick Kappa made short shorts a thing?
Our dad.
Our dad.
And who invented the men's brief swimming trunk? Our dad. That's right, Dad was wearing dick stickers back in a time when wearing them in public could land you in jail.
There are no socks in that.
But our dad, the renegade fashionista, was prepared to serve the time and do the crime for the sake of fashion. And boy, did he do some crimes.
I thought you said budgies.
No one could pull off Speedos like Dad. Mind you, there were not a lot of people who wanted to pull off Dad's Speedos. But look how proud Sarah is here. That's my dad, in his Speedos, again.
The beeper revolutionised the voiceover business in the late 70s. And the way Dad proudly wore his beeper on his plaited leather belt was considered quite avant-garde for the time, until he discovered the man case. Not to be confused with a lady's handbag, the man case was a perfect beeper-sized accessory for the young gentleman who wanted to combine fashion and functionality.
Back in the 80s, the wave ski trend began. Dad, of course, was an early adopter.
Is that your dad on the wave ski?
No. That's Dad on the wave. I don't know what possessed Dad to think that he could ride a wave ski, but he bought himself one in Chrissy in '88. And so began the most frightening 3 minutes of Dad's life when he took it out on its maiden voyage. The lake was not particularly angry that day, and yet somehow Dad managed to flip the wave ski over, get his foot stuck in the foot strap and almost drown. Us kids watched on mesmerised as for 3 long minutes, Dad's head kept popping up from underneath the knee-deep water yelling, "Help! Help!" Luckily, Dad's nose was able to act as a snorkel for long enough to get him out of serious trouble.
Dad also liked to be ahead of the curve with technology. We got a video camera in the early 90s, and Dad fancied himself as a bit of a documentary filmmaker. Dad simultaneously took on the production roles, director, cinematographer, and narrator. Take a look at some of his work here, as Dad not only pans, tilts, and zooms repeatedly with the camera, but also provides insightful commentary.
This is on the 17-mile drive out of Carmel. This is Lake Tahoe. This is Yosemite, the Chattertons. So here's Jackie's place. There's Jackie's vehicle. Nice tree there. And we're going into the bathroom. Somebody in the bathroom? Ah. Now this is a face A sheer face. That's a sheer face. This is Bryce Canyon. This is Don, and this is Lukey Duke and Spreader. Get off.
Dad was soon adding more colour to his commentary.
This is sunset at Yosemite. Just beautiful. Look at that, it's awesome. This is the canyon just prior to sunrise. It's 7:20 a.m., 7:40 a.m., and the sun is beginning to touch the rock, change its colour, emphasize its colours. See the colours highlighted. 7:44. Now this might seem repetitive, but the sun is changing its colours again. Wow.
Luke and I were inspired by Dad's narration and started doing our own filmmaking.
Birds on the rock. Awesome. Spectacular. Beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. Awesome. Spectacular. Beautiful.
The giddying heights of voiceover stardom combined with Dad's other passions of filmmaking, high fashion wave skis and not fixing things made it hard to maintain a normal home life, and Mum and Dad parted ways in 1994.
Sydney slowly began to wear Dad down, and he found he wasn't coping with the pressures of a big city and a 5-hour working week. He started getting irritable, complaining a lot about insignificant things like parking and the government. Not wanting to be a middle-aged cliche, Dad jumped in his sports car and moved to Byron Bay, where he was able to find solace among other like-minded people who were sick of working and liked to complain. It didn't take long for Dad to integrate to the Byron way of life.
And before long, he was kicking back with his crew of middle-aged, linen-clad former city slickers, lamenting what Byron had become. It used to be such a friendly, quiet place, Dad said 3 weeks after visiting Byron, after his first visit to Byron.
Dad.
It's just not the same anymore since all those folks started coming here from down south, his good mate from down south, Carl Red, agreed. Dad's bachelor days in Byron Bay, dossing on Penny and Carl's couch, didn't last long, and probably, in an attempt to get them off their couch, Penny and Carl introduced Dad to Jenny.
Sparks ignited, literally, when Dad had pulled out his toolbox in an effort to fix a broken light bulb in Jenny's house. Jenny had never seen anyone replace a light bulb with a hammer before, and was suitably impressed with this maverick handyman who did things his own way. Dad and Jen hit it off, mostly over a love of complaining how busy Byron had become.
So they called a family meeting, brought in young Marlo, and announced, "Marlo, we're moving out of Byron. We found a little place in a quaint little village to the south called Suffolk Park."
It was here that Dad and oh, you go.
It was here that Dad and Marlo's relationship really took off. Marlo was like the son Dad never had. Respectful, obedient, studious, intelligent.
He was only 8 years old when they met, an impressionable age, and so was fortunate enough to learn from Dad's imparted wisdom. Anyone who's seen Marlo's incredible work with his van that he rebuilt from the ground up, or the home renovation skills he's displayed and the building career he's embarked upon, will know how influential Dad was in not teaching Marlo any of his handyman skills.
Add to this Jen's other perfect children. Beautiful Eva, always kind, caring and punctual, The kind of qualities Dad longed for in a daughter. That's it.
And wonderful Garth with his flowing golden mane and washboard abs and hot wife.
It certainly made for an intimidating trio of perfect offspring when us Downses first met Jenny's kids.
But we hid our resentment and buried our jealous bitterness and smiled and said, "Nice to meet you all. What lovely people you all are."
Dad was over the moon, and the change in him was significant. Gone were the sneakers, slacks, and sports coat.
He was now sporting groovy Byron threads and had grown out the tufts of hair above his ears, and he was smiling.
And Jenny was smiling.
And Garth and Eva were smiling, and Marlo, they were smiling their perfect, beautiful smiles.
And for us Downs kids, it was also a relief to know that Dad was happy. And we'd lucked into a wonderful new blended family. The Brian, Dad, Browning clan all made us feel very welcome, which got us thinking that maybe we should all take on a new family name together. We could be the Abraham, Dad, Browning Downses. Rolls off the tongue, and I mean, you can imagine little Zali, Abraham, Dad, Browning Downs, Nichols. Yeah, what?
So after we all met, Dad, Jen and Marlo decided to build on their rugged rundown block of sand in Suffolk Park. They built a simple wooden shack by the sea where they would live happily ever after for the next 10 years.
Before realising they needed something even simpler. A shed in a paddock in Mullumbimby where they would live happily ever after.
Before realising they needed something even simpler and buying this rundown hovel in South Golden Beach where they would live happily ever after.
Before realising they really did need something a lot simpler. So just 2 months after moving into their forever house again, they decided to pack it all in and live out of their car. Happily ever after.
For all Dad's many, many, many faults, I will say this. He is quite possibly the happiest, most contented man I know. Despite his rants about local, state and federal governments, religious zealots, computers, airlines, inattentive bar staff, doctors, lawyers, hat drivers, bad cars, mechanics, traffic into town, fishing line tangles, pies with too much pastry and bush turkeys, our Dad has a massive heart.
He rose from very humble beginnings in post-war England, risked his hand a number of times over, had a go at pretty much everything, and found a couple of things he was very good at, namely voiceovers and fatherhood.
Dad probably didn't have the best role model to base his fathering on. No. But he muddled through, and in short, he was always actively involved in raising us kids. He coached our teams, he volunteered at the school, he yelled very, very loudly from the sidelines at all our sporting events. And we've always known that we've been loved.
Dad loves life, he loves a laugh, he loves to sing, and he loves to dance like this. He loves his family and he loves his friends. He loves his many wild adventures that Jenny makes him go on. He is one of the kindest and funniest and most general people I know.
Don't try and get round me.
Oh, I was going to say some more nice things. Perfect Marlo down there again. Put your teeth away, Marlo.
No one wants to see your perfect teeth.
Don't look to the teeth, Dad. Bring back over
It's
here.
a trap.
He's one of the kindest and funniest and most generous people we know. He's taught us the most important lesson we could ever wish for, how to live a happy life. We're extremely lucky to have you, Dad. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, baby.
Hey, happy birthday, buddy.